A little bit of a recap from what we read last week. You may remember that Maitreya was explaining to Vidura that now he will speak on the Bhagavat Purana. And he described how Sanat Kumar, long time ago, along with other great sages, traveled through the currents of the Ganges to the bottom of the universe and originally heard this wisdom from Lord Sankarshan, who resides there at the beginning of the creation of a new day of Brahma. So it was described that the Lord laid in the waters of devastation, what did it say, for 1,000 celestial years. And that's where we'll pick up the narration today. So I think we can start right away because it goes right into a beautiful description of Garbhodakshay Vishnu lying at the in the waters of the universe.
Okay, are you going to
I'll
read?
read the first one, yes. You're pretty loud, Sama, in my computer. This is Srimad Bhagavatam, March 2022, lessons 2 and 3. And we'll start with third canto, chapter 8, which is manifestation of Brahma, birth of Brahma, from Garbhodakshay Vishnu. Text 13, Maitreya continued. And again, he's described previously how Garbhodakshay Vishnu is lying in the waters of the previous devastation. Maitreya continued. The subtle subject matter of creation, on which the Lord's attention was fixed, was agitated by the material mode of passion, and thus the subtle form of creation pierced through his abdomen. Sama, you want to pick up and call on people?
Okay, is it too loud? Am I too loud for everyone? Raise your hand if I'm too loud. Oh, I'm okay or not?
That's okay, I just turned it down on mine.
Oh, that's good. Okay, I'm okay. Okay, is Vaishnavi, are you there? First of all, hello and Hare Krishna, everyone, and welcome to this wonderful Sangha of which you make up the Sangha. Thank you for making up the Sangha. Vaishnavi, would you like to begin? I don't know, Vaishnavi. Okay.
She will be here in like 3 minutes. She's just fixing something for my phone.
Thank you, Gopal.
Okay, so we'll start with Bhadra. Bhadraji, could you read?
Hare Krishna Dandavat, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, perfectly.
Okay, thank you. Srimad Bhagavatam 3, 8, 14 and 15. Piercing through the sum total form of the fruitive activity of the living entities, took the shape of the bud of a lotus flower generated from the personality of Vishnu. And by his supreme will, it illuminated everything like the sun and dried up the vast waters of devastation. Into that universal lotus flower, Lord Vishnu personally entered as the super soul, and it was thus impregnated with all the modes of material nature. The personality of Vedic wisdom, whom we call the self-born, was generated. Purport. That is purport.
Yes.
This lotus flower is the universal Virat form, or the gigantic form of the Lord in the material world. It becomes amalgamated in the personality of Godhead Vishnu in his abdomen at the time of dissolution, and it becomes manifest at the time of creation. This is due to Garbhodakshay Vishnu, who entered into each of the universe.
Louder, Bhadra.
In this form is the sum total of all the fruitive activities of the living entities, conditioned by material nature. And the first of them, namely Brahma, or the controller of the universe, is generated from this lotus flower. This firstborn living being, unlike all the others, has no material father and thus he is called self-born or Swayambhu. He goes to sleep with the Narayana at the time of devastation, and when there is another creation, he is born in this way. From this description, we have the conception of three: the gross Virat form, the subtle Hiranyagarbha, and the material creative force, Brahma.
Okay, thank you. Patsy, could you explain those three last things?
Maybe. Let's see if Bhadra wants to say
Vajra,
something.
do you want to?
Yeah, that the last one, the middle one, the Garbhodaksha, that is the super soul here, as far as I understand.
Garbhodaksha is not the super soul.
There is subtle Garbhodak, the gross Virat form, the subtle Garbhodak, and the material creative force, Brahma. So the subtle Hiranyagarbha, here, as I understand, is the super soul.
Yeah, that was right, not Garbhodaksha.
No, what's the
Hiranyagarbha.
difference? So what's the difference between Garbhodaksha Vishnu and Shirodaksha Vishnu in that regard? Because go ahead.
Here in this, as far as I read or I understood, here in this case, the subtle Hiranyagarbha is the super soul. That's what I understood. Now, of course, from this, it is mentioned that Garbhodaksha is entering each universe, but this subtle Hiranyagarbha is the super soul within the heart of each living entity. That's what I understood. Am I making sense? That's what I heard.
Patsy, you want to comment?
You can tell more. Okay, you can clear up the doubt, clear up the understanding. That's better.
Okay. First, let's understand the whole process. It's the sum total of the fruitive activities of the living entities. In other words, all the living entities in one universe are within the navel of Garbhodaksha Vishnu. And their desire to act is so strong, we read last week, that it turned his navel area, abdomen, a blue. It's not a beautiful sham-colored blue, but it's a fruitive activity swampy blue. and that pierces through his abdomen into that lotus flower, and then the lotus flower is generated. That lotus flower, Srila Prabhupada just explained, becomes the Virat Rupa. It spreads throughout the entire universe and illuminates everything. Into that universal lotus flower, Lord Vishnu personally entered as the super soul. And when it was thus impregnated with the modes of nature, that's when Brahma was born. So Srila Prabhupada explains the same thing here. The total fruitive activities conditioned by material nature. The first of them is Brahma. And he's called Swayambhu, or self-manifested, when in actuality he comes from Garbhodaksha Vishnu. But yes, Prabhupada says here that it becomes amalgamated in the personality of Godhead in his abdomen at the time of dissolution. There's another point here that's interesting, and becomes manifest at the time of creation. Now here it says that Brahma goes to sleep with Narayan at the time of devastation. And when there is another creation, he is born in this way. So it appears that in each kalpa, when after the dissolution at Brahma's night, Brahma actually sleeps within the navel of Narayan and then is born in this way. So the three being described are the gross Virat form, which is the whole universe, the subtle Hiranyagarbha, which is the Lord entering within all of it as the super soul, and the material creative force of Brahma, the personality who will engineer the Visarga. Next.
Wait a minute, two hands. First Nanda, then Bhadra. Nanda? Unmute.
I'm unmuting. Okay, so that Virat form as far as my poor memory goes, I remember hearing it described as Lord Brahma's subtle body. That was the Virat.
Wow,
As
where
it
did you read that?
somewhere in Srimad Bhagavatam.
Oh, no, not good enough. You got to tell us exactly.
Because it said that, this is what I remember, that when Lord Brahma stretched his whole body out to sleep, that became the Virat form, and that was the universal form. I probably have it all wrong, right? You don't remember anything like that?
I saw that the lotus flower is considered to be the Virat form. Didn't we just read that? The
Yeah,
lotus.
just read that. That was there. That's that, and so that generated the question that the lotus
Yeah.
flowers were.
I don't
Okay.
know.
All
What-
right.
I think from all our different readings, you may remember that we studied this in the second canto when Maharaj Pariksit
Yeah.
first asked. It was described there. Then we read it we read about it in Brahma Samhita a little bit. And then we read it here in the third canto. And I don't remember, it's more like the Lord is the manifests a Virat Rupa. We read the Bhagavad Gita. We read that whole 11th chapter. So all these descriptions describe that it's actually the Lord who manifests the Virat Rupa, not Brahma, according to those descriptions.
Okay. Thank you.
Right. Madhurya Leela and Bhadra, and then Madhurya Leela. Bhadraji. Bhadra.
Yeah. The Brahma, he says Brahma goes to sleep. Now this is a devastation of, it is one night of Brahma, right? Devastation of one night. So is that the same Brahma when he comes out again after one night? Because Brahma is 100 years. So I guess the same Brahma again manifests. Is that right?
I thought it was
Does
right.
anyone want to comment on that?
It looks like Jayashree has something, and Madhurya Leela. Maybe let them. Madhurya and then
On that
Jayashree.
topic?
Madhurya, you have something on that topic?
Well, yeah, kind of. Maybe I should wait, but
Okay.
because later I think it says that from all the tapasya that he did, I mean, he had to come back up. So that was after his 100 years, though, wasn't it?
It's confusing.
Maybe I should ask later. I'll ask
Confusing.
later, I guess. Let me listen.
I mean,
Okay. Jayashree.
So I was confused because I thought Brahma is a post. So which Brahma, which universe? Aren't there many universes, many Brahmas? I'm
Yes.
like, I'm
Very
Bhadraji.
good.
just confused.
I mean, the Brahma is living 100 years, and it's the one night of Brahma. There is a devastation. So of course, it's the same Brahma. Brahma
that's
is
what we
manifesting. But my question is that when he's lying in the abdomen with Narayan, so he's also considered like other living entities, because all the living entities in Brahma is
Yeah.
in Vishnu's abdomen. So he's also considered one of the living entity.
Brahma is one of the living entities. And who's that other living entity next to you? Do you want to say something? Hare Krishna. He is one of the living entities. Go on, Patti.
Yeah, let me
explain.
explain my understanding. Brahma is a post. It's the name of a post. The life of that post lasts during the entire duration of one universe, that 100 years. But during that 100 years, there are different entities that take that post, just like we have different presidents that take the post of president. So if there are times, it's clearly described, that Brahma is liberated at the end of his day and he goes back to Godhead. And if there's another suitable living entity to take that post, then that person is born as Brahma. And if not, then the Supreme Personality of Godhead actually manifests a form and takes the post because it's such an important post. So the life of Brahma, the 100 years that it's referring to, is the life of a universe or the manifestation of each universe. But it's not the life of the individual that's in that post.
Wow, that is confusing.
Is that confusing or does everybody understand that?
No, it's understood, but then the one day of Brahma's time is not long, considering we say the Brahma's life is so long, but one day of Brahma is not a long time then.
Maybe he's not liberated after that particular day. Maybe it takes him a few years. But there are different, because in Viswanath Chakravarti and Jiva Goswami's commentaries on Brahma Samhita, they talk about that particular person who got that particular darshan and was liberated because he became a pure devotee. It was a Padma Kalpa.
But then at the same time, there is devastation. All the living entities, everybody from the Brahmaloka, they go back to Godhead. So is that during the one day of devastation or the 100 years?
No, that's the 100 years.
So wait a minute, my understanding is also,
Some may also go back to Godhead at any time, though. Just like if we die, and go back to Godhead, if a sadhana siddha, a person attains perfection in their lifetime and leaves the material world, the whole place doesn't dissolve or become annihilated because that person went back to Godhead.
No, that's understood, but there says that when the devastation happened, then whoever are left in the Brahmaloka, they all go back to Godhead. That is after 100 years. Is that right?
That's my understanding.
okay, so you're saying,
you.
like we're talking about this first Brahma that we're talking about, he had to do meditation, everything for 100 years. The whole thing was just 100 years. And then, so he didn't do any creation after that 100 years. He just became self-realized. So he went back to Godhead without doing his service?
No, that's not described at all.
Well, I'm asking, this is actually my question.
Let's read this description of his appearance and what happens right after he does that. We'll find it's very clear.
Oh, okay. If it's clear, let's clear it up.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. So next will be Amy. Are you still there? Would you like to read, Amy? Let's see. I don't know if Amy is with us yet. Okay, we'll have to wait for Amy. Vaishnavi, are you there? Yeah, there she is. Want to read?
Yes, okay. All right. So Srimad Bhagavatam 3.8, 16 and 17. Brahma, born out of the lotus flower, could not see the world, although he was situated in the wall. He therefore circumambulated all of space, and while moving his eyes in all directions, he achieved 4 heads in terms of the 4 directions. Lord Brahma, situated in the lotus, could not perfectly understand the creation, the lotus, or himself. At the end of the millennium, the air of devastation began to move the water and the lotus in great circular waves. Purport. Lord Brahma was perplexed about this creation, the lotus and the world, even though he tried to understand them for 1 millennium, which is beyond calculation in solar years of human beings. No one, therefore, can know the mystery of the creation and cosmic manifestation simply by mental speculation. The human being is so limited in capacity that without the help of the Supreme, he can hardly understand the mystery of the will of the Lord in terms of creation, continuance, and destruction.
Unmute, son.
Does that clear that? That doesn't seem to clear it up for me, because I'm also wondering the
We're
same
going to have
thing
to
when-
read the entire thing today, and it will even go into after Brahma's prayers. I'm saying in this whole story, it's not going to happen today that we'll find it out, but it becomes very extremely clear as we read through this text, through this chapter.
Okay, so what will become clear will be that if it's the same Brahma, the same
Exactly.
living entity as
Yes,
Brahma,
it is the
and
same.
how long he actually lives.
Here's what, no.
Oh.
Here's what's happening. We're reading about the birth of Brahma right now. And we're
Okay.
reading about how he pierced through the abdomen. He will
Okay.
have, right now he's trying to find out his origin on his own, just as Vaishnavi just read that purport. He can't do it. So after a years and millions of years of our time of making that attempt, he goes back to the top of the lotus flower and sits upon it. After 100 years there of meditation and contemplation, the Lord reveals himself, and Brahma actually sees Garbhodakshai Vishnu. He understands where he is on the lotus. He understands the whole situation of the universe. And therefore, he has a desire to create according to the Lord's will and offers his prayers. That's the next chapter. Prayers offered by Brahma's prayers for creative energy. After that, the Lord answers him, just as he did in Brahma Samhita, and gives him instructions how to create the universe. That's why it's very
Okay.
clear it's the same person.
Okay, so we're very good. We probably will have to hear this over and over again, but thank you for that explanation. First, it's funny because when we were talking about the Zoom, we have some conference before we have the Zoom. My husband was saying, let's go quick through the first part. And then we could because there's no purpose, but here we are. This is wonderful. It creates a great curiosity. We have to know these things. Nanda, did you have something to say? I saw your hand raised, and then Madhurya.
I have a question because, and I don't know if Dhruva just answered it because I don't understand it all yet. So I appreciate your comment, Sama, that we got to hear it over and over again. But anyway, my question is, when I mentioned this verse the other day in class, the question came up. It mentions in the purport that Brahma meditated for millennium. And then the question came up, whose millennium? The millennium, in other words, in our time frame, Earth time frame,
Right.
Brahma meditated for millennium, because if it was his time frame, a millennium is just a day. Is that the correct understanding?
Yeah, that's the question. That actually is the question that we're dealing with.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was it a day or was it a millennium?
Yeah, that is all lumped into the big question of who is Brahma and how long does he live, and is it the same Brahma? Let's continue.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, Madhurya, did you have something relating to this to say?
Yes. So this is where I wanted just a little clarification that he meditated for 100 of his years and was unable to see anything. So he came back up to the top of the lotus, and then, but then he only lives for 100 years. So was it, devastation, and then another Brahma came and it was revealed to him, or that was the part that I
Okay, this is the question that we're going to be a little patient as the answer unfolds. This is actually, you have perfectly repeated the question at hand, which everyone here is trying to figure out. So we're going to listen to the Bhagavatam and see if we can further understand it as we delve into this. Okay? Okay, so the next person to read will be Madhurya Leela.
Okay, let's see. Bhagavatam 3:8-18. Lord Brahma in his ignorance contemplated, who am I that I am situated on the top of this lotus? Wherefrom has it sprouted? There must be something downwards, and that from which this lotus has grown must be within the water. Purport: the subject matter of the speculations of Brahma in the beginning regarding the creation of the cosmic manifestation is still a subject matter for mental speculators. The most intelligent man is he who tries to find the cause of his personal existence and that of the whole cosmic creation, and thus tries to find the ultimate cause. If his attempt is properly executed with penances and perseverance, it is sure to be crowned with success.
Okay, so that gives us hope on this question that we're talking about. Very good. Now, let's go on with Manvantara. Can you read the next? Thank you, Madhurya ji.
Text 19. Lord Brahma, thus contemplating, entered the water through the channel of the stem of the lotus. And in spite of entering the stem and going nearer to the navel of Vishnu, he could not trace out the root. By dint of one's personal endeavor, one may go nearer to the Lord But without the Lord's mercy, one cannot reach the ultimate point. Such understanding of the Lord is possible only by devotional service, as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 18, text 55. Bhaktyamam abhigyanti yavam yas chasmi tattva.
Okay. Okay. Mama and Tara, can you comment a little on that?
I was curious when I was reading it how he was trying to find Krishna, Vishnu in so many different places. It must have been really scary because it was dark. But then the hoods of Sesha Nanda was still brilliant, and he was still underwater at this point, I thought. No, he wasn't underwater. The lotus, as said earlier, came out of the water, and the hoods dried up the water. But he went into the stem, and Lord Krishna, Vishnu was outside of the stem. I thought that was really interesting. Krishna watching him like a spider trying to find his way.
Right. So the significance of this verse really, as we're heading toward, is that we really can't find Krishna externally completely. We have to, like Lord Brahma, finally, as my husband was saying before, he goes back up on the lotus after trying to find the situation, going down into the stem and trying to figure the whole thing out, because it would take him an infinity to find the origin of the stem of the lotus. It would not be possible even in Lord Brahma's time frame. So there has to be another way that he can understand his existence, and he gets up on the lotus flower, and another way is going to be presented. Okay, Nanda, can you please, thank you, Manvantara. Thank you. And Nanda, could you read this one for us?
Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd Canto, 8th chapter, verses 20 and 21. O Vidura, while searching in that way about his existence, Brahma reached his ultimate time, which is the eternal wheel in the hand of Vishnu, and which generates fear in the mind of the living entity, like the fear of death. Thereafter, being unable to achieve the desired destination, he retired from such searching and came back again to the top of the lotus. Thus, controlling all objectives, he concentrated his mind on the Supreme Lord. Srila Prabhupada's purport: samadhi involves concentrating the mind on the supreme cause of all causes, even if one is unaware of whether his, capital H, his actual nature is personal, impersonal, or localized. Concentration of the mind on the Supreme is certainly a form of devotional service. To cease from personal sense endeavors and to concentrate on the supreme cause is a sign of self-surrender. And when self-surrender is present, that is a sure sign of devotional service. Each and every living entity needs to engage in devotional service to the Lord if he wishes to understand the ultimate cause of his existence.
Okay, Nanda, please analyze this verse, which is actually essential for understanding.
Well, it's highlighting the instruction that we do have to make our endeavor to try to understand what our existence is, but we can never do it only by our endeavor. We're totally dependent, as it said here, on the mercy of the Lord. And that's that when he gives his mercy, he can A, either reveal himself, or B, send the spiritual master or the enlightened devotees that will help us also find him. But otherwise, but also as is highlighted in the purport in bold, that the endeavor that we make, that's also concentrating our mind, that's also a very important part of devotional service.
Right. Which Lord Brahma finally realized that he had to engage in. And who's another personality? I just thought of another personality in the Srimad Bhagavatam who went to the forest and was searching. He was searching for Lord Krishna, for Narayan.
Was
And
that
finally,
was that Dhruva Maharaj?
that's what I think. And he had to go into a deep meditation.
Yeah, and what to speak of Parikshit too. But can I ask a question? Maybe it's Bhadra's question, but let me ask my question and then Bhadra can ask his question. So it says Brahma reached his ultimate time. What does that mean? That sounds like he's going to die, right? But you don't want to answer that right now, I bet.
I don't have the answer. Patti, you have the answer for that? That's the question that we're trying to figure out. That is a little bit confusing. So, okay, we have Bhadra, you were.
I didn't know that time was going to be such an important concept that everybody was confused about, so I'll have to do some more research to find out details.
Okay, someone's phone is ringing. Oh, that's our phone. Okay. Bhadra and then Chaita. Bhadra?
So in the previous verse, it is mentioned about the by dint of one personal endeavor, one may go nearer to the Lord, but without the Lord's mercy, one cannot reach the ultimate goal, ultimate point. And we understand that same as when we go to bhava, when we come to the bhava or prema stage, bhava, after the bhava stage, even if you come to the bhava stage, if you think that I'm going to go by my personal endeavor to come to the prema, is not possible. It's only possible by the mercy of the Lord. That's understood. So is that someone is come to near the Lord? Is that here is Srila Prabhupada is talking about the yogis? Because yogis, they try to do their things so that they think that by personal endeavor they will be able to go, but they don't understand the mercy of the Lord. And devotee understand without the mercy of the Lord is not possible. Is that what it is here?
Anyone, I would say anyone, but the yogis are certainly in that group. That's their main concern, to think that they will achieve the Lord by their own endeavor. That's very hard to do. That's very hard to do.
Thank you.
Thank you. Chaita, did you want to say something?
Hare Krishna, Dandava Pranams, everyone. My question is the same as Nanda's about the idea of ultimate time. And I'm just inferring that might mean that our endeavors are always limited.
Very nice.
We have a ceiling. And at
Very
that point,
nice.
okay.
Right, very nice. We can only endeavor, but that's why he went on the lotus flower. And that's why he saw through his own endeavor, he would not achieve the Lord. He had to meditate on the situation and meditate on the Lord. We're getting closer to the unanswerable. Let's see how far more we can get. All right. We're going to go on now with Seisha. Is that all right, Seisha ji? Can you read this?
Yes. Thank you. Hare Krishna to everyone.
Hare
My
Krishna.
Bhagavatam 3:8-22. At the end of Brahma's 100 years, when his meditation was complete, he developed the required knowledge, and as a result, he could see in his heart the Supreme within himself, whom he could not see before the greatest endeavor. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The Lord can be experienced only through the process of devotional service, and not by one's personal endeavor and mental speculation. The age of Brahma is calculated in terms of Divya years, which are distinct from the solar years of human beings. The Divya years are calculated in Bhagavad Gita 8:17, Sahasra Yuga Paryantam Ahur Yad Brahmano Vidu. Brahma's one day is equal to 1,000 times the aggregate of the 4 yugas, calculated to be 4,300,000 years. On that basis, Brahma meditated for 100 years before he could understand the supreme cause of all causes. And then he wrote the Brahma Samhita, which is approved and recognized by Lord Chaitanya, and in which he sings Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. One has to wait for the mercy of the Lord before one can either render service unto him or know him as he is.
Thank you, Sesha. Okay, are we getting closer to the answer? And that last thing, the last sentence that you read, if you can talk a little bit about that one. And are we getting closer to the answer that we're looking for?
So, yeah, Nanda mentioned her class the other day, and discussion came up about the time, whose time frame. This purport helps understand that aspect, which is just one aspect of the major question that's being discussed today.
Yeah.
But at least we are getting closer, you ask, I think. Now, as far as a subset of what we're talking about, personal endeavor and how to understand the Supreme Lord, obviously it's his mercy. And that mercy comes in different forms. I think for us, it's come in the form of the opportunity to engage in devotional service and the warnings that Srila Prabhupada and our acharyas give us about yoga, jnana, other processes, but just to focus on devotional service. Now, of course, that devotional service does include, as we just read, meditation on the Supreme Lord. So it's not devoid of what yogis or jnanis may do, but the focus is on pleasing the Supreme Lord, which is devotion.
Right. And I was just thinking that since I was going to ask you, why is devotional service so important and why is there so much emphasis on it? But do you want to answer that? Or should I was thinking of my little answer that I would give to that. But why is the stress here on devotional service?
Do you have an answer? I'd be happy to hear it.
Well, we are servants. That's our kind, because in all of the different processes, this essence of who we are is not the main application. We are realizing our constitutional position as servants of Krishna, therefore engaging in his service that is helping us to understand. Otherwise, jnanis, yogis, that is not in the forefront. They're not thinking in that through that process. The thought of being the servant of Krishna is not the most important thing, and which is the essence of everything. That would be my understanding. Does anyone ever, for me, this is a very important point that keeps coming up throughout our readings. What do you think, Sesha? Is that correct? Or
I think it's wonderful.
Okay, well, I'll take that as a yes. Thank you. All right. Let's go on now with Anita reading this next verse. Anita, would you like to read this?
To everyone. Srimad Bhagavatam 3.8, 23 to 24. Brahma could see that on the water there was a gigantic lotus-like white bat stand, the body of the Sheshnaga, on which the personality of Godhead was lying alone. The whole atmosphere was illuminated by the rays of the jewels, bedecking the hood of Sheshnag, and that illumination dissipated all the darkness of those regions. The luster of the transcendental body of the Lord mocked the beauty of the coral mountain. The coral mountain is very beautifully dressed by the evening sky, but the yellow dress of the Lord mocked its beauty. There is gold on the summit of the mountain, but the Lord's helmet, bedecked with jewels, mocked it. The mountains, waterfalls, hearts, etc., with a panorama of flowers, seems like garlands, but the Lord's gigantic body and his hands and legs, decorated with jewels, pearls, tulsi leaves, and flower garlands, mark the scene up on the mountain.
Thank you, Anita. We're going to go on because there's no purport here. But Jayashri, if you will read the next one, and Anita, if you want to comment on that too, we can go on with that. But why don't we, wait a minute, where are we?
I just switched it.
Oh, you just switched. Okay. Okay. Jayashree, could you read this? Thank you, Anita. Pay attention because I would like to hear what your understanding of this next section with the purport is. And one more thing, if you're not speaking, turn off the mic because all kinds of sounds are coming through the cyberspace. Okay, Jayashree.
Okay, Srimad Bhagavatam 3:8, 25 to 27. His transcendental body, unlimited in length and breadth, occupied the three planetary systems, upper, middle, and lower. His body was self-illuminated by unparalleled dress and variegatedness and was properly ornamented. The Lord showed his lotus feet by raising them. His lotus feet are the source of all awards achieved by devotional service, free from material contamination. Such awards are for those who worship him in pure devotion. The splendor of the transcendental rays from his moon-like toenails and fingernails appeared like the petals of a flower. He also acknowledged the service of the devotees and vanquished their distress by his beautiful smile. The reflection of his face, decorated with earrings, was so pleasing because it dazzled with the rays from his lips and the beauty of his nose and eyebrows.
Go on.
Report by Srila Prabhupada. Devotional service to the Lord is very much obliging to him. There are many transcendentalists in different fields of spiritual activities, but devotional service to the Lord is unique. Devotees do not ask anything from the Lord in exchange for their service. Even the most desirable liberation is refused by devotees, although offered by the Lord. Thus, the Lord becomes a kind of debtor to the devotees, and he can only try to repay the devotees' service with his ever-enchanting smile. The devotees are ever satisfied by the smiling face of the Lord, and they become enlivened. And by seeing the devotees so enlivened, the Lord himself is further satisfied. So there is continuous transcendental competition between the Lord and his devotees by such reciprocation of service and acknowledgement.
Can I ask you a question here? If this
Sure.
says, why don't the devotees ask anything from Krishna?
Why don't we ask anything?
Yeah, why does Prabhupada say devotees don't ask anything from Krishna? What does that mean?
Because we only, what you were talking about before his service, what we only really want is to serve him and to please Krishna, and we don't need anything else.
And if we were to ask for something, what would that indicate?
That we had not, that we were not.
That we're not surrendered. That we didn't surrender.
Yeah.
And then the previous purport, Prabhupada was saying that from self-surrender, becomes devotional service, and it's all linked up. So if a devotee, because that also caught my eye, a devotee doesn't ask anything from Krishna, and I can't say that happens in my case. I'm asking for, we can ask for pure devotional service. I'm praying for the Ukrainian devotees. We're asking, but it has to be in a mood of self-surrender and complete service. That's my understanding. Is that all right?
That's great. Yes.
All right. Shall we go on now? We're almost there to the next chapter. Faye, can you please read these verses on the next slide? Thank you, Jayashree. Faye, you there? There you go.
Hare Krishna, good morning.
Hare Krishna, good morning.
I apologize. My voice is not that good. If it fades out, I'm sorry. You'll have to get someone else.
Okay.
And I've got a lot of competition today. The Marines are practicing on the artillery range outside my window, so I've got a lot of noise. Sorry. If the noise is too frightening, I'll certainly cut off my mic.
Okay.
Srimad Bhagavatam 3.8, 28 through 30. O my Vidura, the Lord's waist was covered with yellow cloth resembling the saffron dust of the kadamba flower. and it was encircled by a well-decorated belt. His chest was decorated with the Shrivast markings and a necklace of unlimited value. As a sandalwood tree is decorated with fragrant flowers and branches, the Lord's body was decorated with valuable jewels and pearls. He was the self-situated tree, the Lord of all others in the universe. And as a sandalwood tree is also covered with many snakes, so the Lord's body was also covered by the hoods of Ananta. Like a great mountain, the Lord stands as the abode for all moving and non-moving living entities. He is the friend of the snakes because Lord Ananta is his friend. As a mountain, he has thousands of golden peaks. So the Lord was seen with the thousands of golden helmeted hoods of Anantanaga, and as a mountain is sometimes filled with jewels, so also his transcendental body was fully decorated with valuable jewels. As a mountain is sometimes submerged in the ocean water, so the Lord is sometimes submerged in the water of devastation.
Oh, well, this is a wonderful description. Well, we're gonna, unless you have something to say about this magnificent description of the Lord, we're going to go on because we're trying to get to the next chapter. Is that, what does this make you feel like, actually, Faye?
It's beautiful. It's so hard to imagine. And even if I try to imagine, I'm just ecstatic to hear it.
Yeah, that's the magic word, hear it.
Yes.
We have to continue hearing these things, whether we understand it or not, whether what the Prabhupada say in a previous purport, that whether you, if you want the three different aspects, if you're interested in self-realization, if you're a personalist, if you're a Jnani, or if you're Bhakta, this is important because hearing purifies us, whether we understand completely or not, whether all our questions are answered or not. Everything will be answered in due course of time if we surrender without asking anything from Krishna. Thank you, Faye. Let's go on with Elizabeth. Thank you. I think this is the last verses of this chapter. Elizabeth, would you like to read?
Yes, Mataji, Dandavats Pranams, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
3.8, 31 to 33. Lord Brahma, thus looking upon the Lord in the shape of a mountain, concluded that he was Hari, the personality of Godhead. He saw that the garland of flowers on his chest glorified him with Vedic wisdom in sweet songs and looked very beautiful. He was protected by the Sudarshan wheel for fighting, and even the sun, moon, air, fire, etc. could not have access to him. When Lord Brahma, the maker of the universal destination, thus saw the Lord, he simultaneously glanced over creation. Lord Brahma saw the lake in Lord Vishnu's navel, and the lotus flower, as well as the devastating water, the drying air, and the sky, all became visible to him. Lord Brahma, thus being surcharged with the motive passion, became inclined to create. And after seeing the 5 causes of creation indicated by the personality of Godhead, he began to offer his respectful prayers on the path of the creative mentality.
Unmute, Sama.
That concludes us in the section. Before we go on to the next chapter, is everything clear? Of course, our answers aren't all satisfied, our questions, but are we ready to go on to the next chapter? Oh, Bhadra.
So this is all Lord Brahma is seeing within his heart, is that right?
Patsy?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, because he
Also-
could not see. Oh, sorry. Go on.
Nothing, just I was going to point out here. He says here, he became inclined to create, and after seeing the 5 causes of creation indicated by the personality of Godhead, he began to offer respectful prayers on the path of creative mentality. These 5 causes are earth, water, fire, air, and ether that was described previously by Maitreya as part of the Mahatattva and its gradual development. I looked that one up in Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur's commentaries. Like I mentioned also, I'll look up the time elements, and if there's any information, then I'll post that on the forum posts.
Okay. Midoriya, did you have a question? And then Chaita will begin reading.
It says that there was light because it was all lit up because of the jewels on Anantashesha's heads. So it seemed, isn't it that he was actually Brahma was sitting on top of a lotus and seeing the Lord down there in the on the causal ocean?
He was not seeing with his eyes externally. I'm sorry.
Just as Bhadra just asked, at the end of Brahma's 100 years, when his meditation was complete, he developed the required knowledge, and as a result could see in his heart the supreme within himself, whom he could not see before with the greatest endeavor. Srila Prabhupada gives in another place in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, under this discussion of the same thing. We studied that before we even started the 3rd canto. Remember, we were studying so diligently this descriptions between Krishna and Brahma in different kalpas and different features, that it's just like television. He could actually see it clearly from within his heart. Tene Brahma Hridaya Adhikavaye. When the heart is completely pure, then one can see clearly. So he's actually being Seshanaga, Ananta, and Lord Sankarshan, Garbhodakshay Vishnu are actually revealing directly to him this vision. Imagine.
Thank you.
And then it was described. Yeah. Then he described it so beautifully, like poetically, with the mountain and his description.
Mm-hmm. You could just go back to that third nurse.
Back to what, Madhurya?
The one we just read, because it says in there, it says in there that he became inclined to create.
Yeah.
One before that, right? He became inclined to create after he had gone through all that meditation, even though it was 100 years. So it seems to indicate it was the same Brahma, even though he was at the end of his 100 years.
I agree.
It's also stated at the end of the Brahma Samhita, in those 5 verses that Krishna spoke, in the purports to those 5 verses, it was described that the Lord's instructions to him, how to meditate upon him while performing his duties, were appropriate because Brahma was still a conditioned soul. He had a desire to create, and therefore the Lord is fulfilling his desire and teaching him how to dovetail that desire with the Lord's supreme will. So that's actually what those verses are, and what the verses that Krishna will speak or Vishnu will speak to Brahma later on in this narration. After Brahma's prayers, Krishna, the Lord, answers him and explains to him how to perform your duty. Samak, share your realization that you were speaking this morning about how this pastime is relevant to us because it takes place in this sphere.
Oh, well, that's it. Maybe Nanda wanted to say something real quick. Nandaji, do you want to say something?
I just was going to comment that in 13th and 14th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, and maybe other places in the Bhagavad Gita, it's mentioned sapasyati napasyati or something like that. They see, but they don't see. So in other words, if we're seeing through ignorance, we're not really seeing. But if we're seeing through the eye of knowledge or realization, we can see. So Brahma, nothing actually really changed in Brahma's situation in the sense that there he was still on top of the lotus flower and still was dark and everything. But now through realization, now he could see. Before he could he tried to find it on his own. Anyway, that was a quick comment, sorry. But
That's a very, very significant comment. Thank you.
Sounds like you got amazing grace. Was once blind, but now I see.
Yeah, that's it. So we were discussing this morning the position of Lord Brahma and how he is the head of our sampradaya, and he is in the universe experiencing all of these things, and with his direct understanding that he cannot see the enormous form of the Lord externally. It's like an ant wanting to see the whole body, my whole body. You know, my finger is big enough for an ant, but so to understand this knowledge, it has to be internal, absolutely internal. And our position in this universe is being described and being brought to light by Lord Brahma. We have to follow Lord Brahma and follow his realizations, and then we will achieve knowledge. We'll achieve Krishna consciousness by seeing that, following him. We're in the universe, he's in the universe. This is what you do in the universe, in the material world, where you're bombarded by all the senses and earth, fire, water, air, ether. We're being bombarded. So what do? What did Lord Brahma do? We follow Lord Brahma. That is disciplic succession. Well, that was
now. Oops.
Okay.
And now we'll. Now we'll hear what he did after seeing such a beautiful sight and understanding the Lord was there with him.
Right. Does everybody understand how you cannot see this externally? It's actually physically impossible, even on a physical platform. Okay, so now we're going to go on with Chaitamayi reading. Is that okay, Chaita?
Yes. Chapter 9, Brahma's prayers for creative energy. Srimad Bhagavatam 3:9-1. Lord Brahma said, "Oh, my Lord, today, after many, many years of penance, I have come to know about you. Oh, how unfortunate the embodied living entities are that they are unable to know your personality. My Lord, you are the only knowable object because there is nothing supreme beyond you. If there is anything supposedly superior to you, it is not the absolute. You exist as the supreme by exhibiting the creative energy of matter." Purport by Srila Prabhupada. One can know the supreme cause, the personality of Godhead, by the causeless mercy of the Lord, which is bestowed upon the Lord's pure devotees like Brahma and those in his disciplic succession. By acts of penance only was Lord Brahma able to see the Garbhodakashayi Vishnu, and by realization only could he understand the Lord as he is. Brahma was extremely satisfied upon observing the magnificent beauty and opulence of the Lord, and he admitted that nothing can be comparable to him. Only by penance can one appreciate the beauty and opulence of the Lord. And when one is acquainted with that beauty and opulence, he is no longer attracted by any other. Foolish human beings who do not endeavor to investigate the supreme beauty and opulence of the Lord are here condemned by Brahma. It is imperative that every human being try for such knowledge. And if anyone does not do so, his life is spoiled. Anything that is beautiful and opulent in the material sense is enjoyed by those living entities who are like crows. Crows always engage in picking at rejected garbage, whereas the white ducks do not mix with the crows. Rather, they take pleasure in transparent lakes with lotus flowers surrounded by beautiful orchards. Both crows and ducks are undoubtedly birds by birth, but they are not of the same feather.
Okay, Jeta. What can you tell us about that?
It's really a choice. Krishna has endowed each one of us with free will. So we can choose to go with the garbage. We can choose to go with the beautiful orchards, but we have the choice. And just because we have choice doesn't mean we're going to make intelligent ones.
Right. That's true too. I was thinking of something very, see, Prabhupada, he came, he had a mission, and he delivered the truth. There was no time for building a bridge. He taught the truth, and that actually was a sifting process. Those who want it, you do it now, because time is of the essence, you know. And do not waste your human life. Anything else you can tell us about that?
To me, that's a comfort, because when you are preaching and you're trying to get through and offer this gift of knowledge to people, if they reject it, it has no bearing on you.
No, it doesn't. You're a deliverer. You're the mailman.
So it's like Prabhupada would come, he'd deliver the message, and then he'd get on the plane and move on. He didn't sit there and wait for everybody to become enthusiastic about it. And likewise, we can be detached when we're preaching and not feel ultimately responsible for other people's receptivity.
You do the best you can. You do the best you can to give Krishna consciousness, and then you can't take it personally. You cannot take it personally.
Right. Thank you.
All right. Okay, shall we go on? Well, Madhurya, did you have a pressing question here, sweetie? Madhurya ji, I see your hand is up here. Maybe you didn't take it down. Okay, let's go on with Gopa Patni. Gopa, can you read? Let's see.
Sure. Haribo.
Haribo. Nice to see you, Gopa.
Stagger time was canceled today.
I know, I heard. So therefore we got Gopa here. Good.
Srimad Bhagavatam 3:9-2-3. The form which I see is eternally freed from material contamination, has invented to show mercy to the devotees as a manifestation of internal potency. This incarnation is the origin of many other incarnations, and I am born from the lotus flower grown from your navel home. Oh, my Lord, I do not see a form superior to your present form of eternal bliss and knowledge. In your impersonal Brahman effulgence in the spiritual sky, there is no occasional change and no deterioration of internal potency. I surrender unto you because whereas I am proud of my material body and senses, your lordship is the cause of the cosmic manifestation, and yet you are untouched by matter. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The only way to understand the Lord as he is by devotional service to the Lord, or by approaching the devotee of the Lord, who always has the Lord in his heart. By devotional perfection, one can understand that the impersonal Brahmajyoti is only a partial representation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna, and that the three Purusha expansions in the material creation are his plenary portions. In the spiritual sky of the Brahmajyoti, there is no change of various kalpas or millenniums, and there are no creative activities in the Vaikuntha worlds. The influence of time is conspicuous of its absence, by its absence. The rays of the transcendental body of the Lord, the unlimited Brahma Jyoti, are undeterred by the influence of material energy. In the material world also, the initial creator is the Lord himself. He brings about the creation of Brahma, who becomes the subsequent creator, empowered by the Lord.
Whoa. Well, that should answer some questions. What do you think, Gopa?
Oh, Krishna, Krishna. Krishna is everything. Krishna is everywhere. Krishna is...
He is everywhere. And what about the question that we have been asking throughout this whole class? It is actually non-applicable in the spiritual world. It's not even a question. We're trying to figure out time, eternal time, and figure out who said what, when, and the whole Rama's life and the lotus flower is very confusing. But on the spiritual platform for a self-realized soul, there's no existence of time, which is therefore there's no confusion. Cheta? I can't hear you, sweetie.
Thank you. Astonishing to read that there are no creative activities in the Vaikuntha worlds.
No passion.
That's astonishing. That's because my mind is so small, I can't conceive of it. But
well, because we're thinking in terms of, if nothing is created, nothing is being done. But there is a lot of activity without the creative element of passion that requires passion. Anyone else have something to add to that? Okay, I guess we're going to go on now with Ian. Would you like to read, Ian?
Hare Krishna, am I hearing?
Yes,
you hearing me?
Loud and clear. Thank you. Very good.
Hare Krishna to everybody. Sorry I'm late, but I've got some of the essence. Thank you very much for keeping the light burning. Okay, so 3.9.4 is what I'm supposed to be reading? Is it 3.9.4?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes, so this present form or any transcendental form expanded by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, is equally auspicious for all the universes. Since you have manifested this eternal personal form upon whom your devotees meditate, I therefore offer my respectful obeisances unto you. Those who are destined to be dispatched to the paths of hell neglect your personal form because of speculating on material topics. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Lord expands himself as the flames of a fire expand one after another. Although the original flame of Sri Krishna is accepted as Govinda, the Supreme Person, all other expansions such as Ram, Nrsimha, and Varaha are as potent as the original Lord. All such expanded forms are transcendental. In the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam, it is made clear that the Supreme Truth is eternally uncontaminated by material touch. There is no jugglery of words and activities in the transcendental kingdom of the Lord. All Lord's forms are transcendental, and such manifestations are ever identical.
Oh. That's could you explain that last sentence? All the Lord's forms are transcendental, and such manifestations are ever identical.
Yeah, so all Lord's forms are transcendental. I mean, there's no aspect of material nature in the Lord's forms. So although when you say like the flame, the original flame, those original flame just as potent as the original flame. So the Lord is like the original flame, and the other expansions are from the original flame. So they are transcendental and as potent as the Lord. That's my reading.
Perfect. Thank you. That is a perfect explanation from the Brahma Samhita.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much, Ian. Okay. We have Guru Prasad with us. Would you like to read, Guru Prasad?
Okay, I can read. Thank you.
Thank you.
Right. Srimad Bhagavatam 3.9.5. O my Lord, person who smell the aroma of your lotus feet, carried by the air of Vedic sounds through the holes of the ears, accept your devotional service. For them, you are never separated from the lotus of their hearts. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. For the pure devotee of the Lord, there is nothing beyond the lotus feet of the Lord. And the Lord knows that such devotees do not wish anything more than that. The word "to" specifically establishes this fact. The Lord also does not wish to be separated from the lotus hearts of those pure devotees. That is the transcendental relationship between the pure devotees and the personality of Godhead. Because the Lord does not wish to separate himself from the heart of such pure devotees, it is understood that they are specifically dearer than the impersonalists. The relationship of the pure devotees with the Lord develops because of devotional service to the Lord on the authentic basis of Vedic authority. Such pure devotees are not mundane sentimentalists, but are factually realist because their activities are supported by the Vedic authorities, who have given oral reception to the fact mentioned in the Vedic literatures. The word paraya is very significant. Para bhakti, or spontaneous love of God, is the basis of an intimate relationship with the Lord. The highest stage of relationship with the Lord can be attained simple by hearing about him, his name, form, quality, etc. From authentic source like Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam recited by pure unalloyed devotees of the Lord.
Thank you. Thank you. Can I ask you one question? The relationship between the pure devotees and the Lord develops because, okay, the question is, why is the relationship between the Lord and the pure devotees more impressive, and the Lord appreciates that more than with the impersonalists? That's a simple question. Who can say?
Yes, this is a personal relationship. Of course, it's more beautiful. No? It's
Good. Good. It's a personal relationship, and but the impersonalists, they don't want to have a relationship with him. They deny his existence. So that's why, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I thought that was kind of far out. It's wonderful. It gives us hope, because if this is so rude, it's just like someone sitting next to you and you ignore that person. You don't want to have a relationship. That's a Krishna wants to have a relationship with all of his parts and parcels. And I think upcoming in next verses, very profound, wonderful thing, that each one of us has an eternal divine relationship with Krishna that is within our own hearts. Every one of us. And guess what? It's different. It's different for everyone. Krishna doesn't create the same. He wants variety, right? Chaita's appreciating that one. So if we feel like we're different than everyone else, good, because we are. Thank you, Guru Prasad. And then now we're getting close to the end here. Vaishnavi, you want to read another one?
Actually, before we go on, Sam, I just wanted to point out, it's a nice point here that Srila Prabhupada's pointing out. Brahma is starting to use words that are not only philosophical, but he's actually developed in his years of meditation and his seeing the Lord and appreciation for him in a loving mood. It's just not all of a sudden that he's an engineer of a universe and it's just he's stated here, it's parabhakti, or spontaneous love of Godhead, is the basis of an intimate relationship with the Lord. This goes back to what we were talking about further. It's not simply doing a duty. We were talking with Jayashree about why we don't ask for something. The reason a devotee doesn't want to ask for anything is because when one is in love with another, the basis of their activities is for the pleasure of the beloved, rather than for anything for themselves. Naturally, he has a desire. This is the unique situation with Brahma. He has his own desire. He wants to create, but he also wants to please Krishna by using that natural inclination. And he wants to do it in a spontaneous, loving way rather than simply as a duty. So there's actually progression in his prayers. Just wanted to bring that out.
Oh, that's beautiful. Because when we talk about love, duty is the foundation of love, but it's not the complete love. You know, you have to go beyond duty. Duty is like you're following orders, but when the love starts to develop, you actually start feeling appreciation and how can we define love? Service. You do your service with a different mood to please the beloved. Thank you, Pati. Okay, Vaishnavi, would you like to read again? You still with us, Vaishnavi? Okay, she's not responding. How about Sesha? Sesha, could you read this again? Would you like to read this?
Bhagavatam, 3rd Canto, Chapter 9, Text number 6. O my Lord, the people of the world are embarrassed by all material anxieties. They are always afraid. They always try to protect wealth, body, and friends, and they are filled with lamentation and unlawful desires and paraphernalia. And they avariciously base their undertakings on the perishable conceptions of mine and of my and mine. As long as they do not take shelter of your safe lotus feet, they are full of such anxieties. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. A pure devotee of the Lord never thinks himself as the proprietor of his home. He surrenders everything unto the supreme control of the Lord, and thus he has no fear for maintaining his family or protecting the interests of his family. Because of his surrender, he no longer has any attraction for wealth. Even if there is attraction for wealth, it is not for sense enjoyment, but for the service of the Lord. A pure devotee may be attracted to acquiring wealth, just like an ordinary man, but the difference is that a devotee acquires money for the service of the Lord, whereas the ordinary man acquires money for his sense enjoyment. Thus, the acquisition of wealth by a devotee is not a source of anxieties, as is the case for a worldly man. And because the pure devotee accepts everything in the sense of serving the Lord, the poisonous teeth of accumulation of wealth are extracted. If a snake has its poison removed and bites a man, there is no fatal effect. Similarly, material wealth accumulated in the cause of the Lord has no poisonous teeth, and the effect is not fatal. A pure devotee is never entangled in material worldly affairs, even though he may remain in the world like an ordinary man.
Wow. What do you think, Sesha? Can you elaborate on this a little?
I think it's pretty amazing that all of what we've been hearing in this section of Srimad Bhagavatam and discussing today are out of this world, so to speak. The lotus flower coming from the navel lake of the Lord Brahma going up and down the stem, meditating on the top of the lotus, looking down. As someone mentioned, at least the paintings like that. He looks down and he sees Garbhodakshai Vishnu line. We're studying all that, and then all of a sudden we get this purport. Bang, and it starts talking about things that are really pinning us to the wall. Our desire for wealth, material sense enjoyment. And Prabhupada's very clearly distinguishing between what a devotee does and what a non-devotee does, even though they may look the same thing. So we get this very clear purport focused on us rather than the universal time
Wow.
So it's nice. It's a nice break in the philosophical position, or you can look at it as it ties us in our individual situations into that philosophical background. So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, it's very relevant. The Bhagavatam is relevant always. Thank you. That's beautiful. Thank you, Sesha. Okay, we're almost at the end of our, how about Manvantara? Would you like to read again? Manvantaraji?
Sure. Text 7 and 8. O my Lord, persons who are bereft of the all-auspicious performance of chanting and hearing about your transcendental activities are certainly unfortunate and are so bereft of good sense. They engage in inauspicious activities, enjoying sense gratification for a very little while. O great actor, my Lord, all these poor creatures are constantly perplexed by hunger, thirst, severe cold, secretion and bile, attacked by coughing winter, blasting summer, rains, and many other disturbing elements, and overwhelmed by strong sex urges and indefatigable anger. I take pity on them, and I am very much aggrieved for them. Purport. A pure devotee of the Lord, like Brahma, and persons of his disciplic succession are always unhappy to see the perplexities of the conditioned souls who are suffering the onslaughts of the three miseries which pertain to the body and mind, to the disturbances in material nature, and to many other such material disadvantages, not knowing adequate measures for relieving such difficulties. Suffering persons sometimes pose themselves as leaders of the people, and the unfortunate followers are put into further disadvantages under such so-called leadership. This is like a blind man's leading another blind man to fall into a ditch. Therefore, unless the devotees of the Lord take pity on them and teach them the right path, their lives are hopeless failures. The devotees of the Lord who voluntarily take the responsibility of raising the foolish materialistic sense enjoyers are as confidential to the Lord as Lord Brahma.
Wow, doesn't that give you hope, Manvantara? I just want to say, something about Manvantara. She's a nurse. I brought this up before, but she is directly involved with people at their last breath, and sometimes she really assists someone going, raising that person to a spiritual platform. Isn't that true, Manvantara? You give prasad, or you offer little things that are going in the body of a seriously ill person. So
yeah, I try to do the best of my part.
Yes, you do. And that shows us also the intimacy that, can you bring it back to the last line? We have one more verse, but this is a really important line. The devotees of the Lord who voluntarily take the responsibility of raising the foolish materialistic sense enjoyers are as confidential to the Lord as Lord Brahma. Now that is very hopeful, and he is the beginning of our sampradaya, and we are learning from him. We are learning from Lord Brahma. He's our guru. So thank you to all of those who are taking this very seriously. Okay, so now we have one more. Jayashree, would you like to read this? She's also a nurse, or she was a nurse. You have a lot of caregivers. Okay, was.
Yes. Text 9. Oh my Lord, the material miseries are without factual existence for the soul. Yet as long as the conditioned soul sees the body as meant for sense enjoyment, he cannot get out of the entanglement of material miseries, being influenced by your external energy. Purport. The whole trouble of the living entity in material existence is that he has an independent conception of life. He is always dependent on the rules of the Supreme Lord in both the conditioned and liberated states. But by the influence of the external energy, the conditioned soul thinks himself independent of the supremacy of the personality of Godhead. His constitutional position is to dovetail himself with the desire of the supreme will. But as long as he does not do so, he is sure to drag on in the shackles of material bondage. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 255, Prajahati yada kaman sarvan parta manogatan. He has to give up all sorts of plans manufactured by mental concoction. The living entity has to dovetail himself with the supreme will that will help him to get out of the entanglement of material existence.
Unmute, Sama.
Yeah, no, sorry. Do you have again of this, Jayashree? Do you have realized knowledge of this?
Put it up again. Let me look at it. Can you put up the screen again? I was looking at something before. Yeah, so we have to, so it's not that we don't have any desires to do things. I like the part where it says we have to dovetail ourselves, to the supreme will and help get out of the entanglement. And then as long as we don't, we're just stuck. We're just, bonded. It's like that verse we did a few weeks ago. Any work that we do, if we're not doing it and dovetailing it for Krishna, we're just getting more and more entangled in the material world. And then there was something we read a couple of slides ago in the purport about just by hearing and chanting, but hearing from Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita, that we can come to that platform, that, that loving, understand that loving relationship. Krishna.
Wonderful. Beautiful. Thank you. Bajaji?
The GBC is on the line here.
Welcome.
I have a question here from the text 6, because the money part is an important part, and we are in the society where, Srila Prabhupada says very clearly everything is belong to Krishna and everything is Krishna's property, and devotee collect the money for the purpose of satisfying the Lord. Now the money is very, very, it is very touchy subject matter in a sense that, everybody is attracted to the money when it comes to. So, and all the other organizations where we see where the organizer, the main person has a balance of billions and billions and billions of dollars, rupees, whatever. So what are the precautions in our society? Usually the persons who are holding the big positions, they be careful, because power and the money and the power and the woman corrupts. It is natural. It corrupts the mind of the devotee. It does. So, what are the precautions are taken just to give some general idea? What are the precautions usually persons who are experiencing this takes, and how is that? Can someone elaborate, please? Thank you.
Pachi, you want to speak on that? Or does anyone?
Here, my immediate thought on it would be that here we're dealing with the most opulent, most powerful, most influential person in the entire universe. He's alone. He's going to be given the task of engineering the entire universe, arranging bodies and planets and circumstances for the entire place. And his prayers, as we'll see, are the answer to your question, Bhadra, because they reveal his attitude, his request, and when we read the Lord's answer, we'll read how he suggests one does that. So it's a perfect prelude to this upcoming event. It's not just a simple 1 or 2 sentence answer. His whole, as Brahma continues his prayers, he goes deeper into saying, please don't allow me to become influenced. He's dealing with modes of nature we have no conception of, but that's his situation. And the example of him being the Adi Guru, the preceptor, directly instructed by the Lord, is meant for the benefit of all living entities who follow that example. That would be my
That's perfect.
response.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
I just wanted to say one thing, that Lord Brahma, or sometimes, we as conditioned souls talk negatively about Lord Brahma and about Lord Indra, but Lord Brahma, after performing all of these activities, it wasn't that he had passionately wanted to create. He was like he's controlling the mode of passion, but he actually, through love and surrender to Krishna, he wanted to serve by creating the universe. That was his inclination, just like every one of us here has a different inclination and desire to serve Krishna in a specific way. So he was designated with that service, and Brahma's attitude is to do it out of love, not to satisfy his material senses, which, in relation to Vajra's question, that we will see this more and more, how our motivation has to be pure service and pleasure of Krishna rather than satisfying our own material desires, which were so condemned in the purports that we just read. Prabhupada said it really strongly. If one who is using his human form of life to satisfy his material senses is foolish. He's wasting it. That's my understanding, but that's a really wonderful question and a prelude, as my husband said. Does anyone else have something to add? Sesha, Nanda, Ian, do you have something to say before we close? Anyone want to say something? Faye? I know Faye is not feeling so great today, but she's also a nice contributor.
Seems like everyone's contemplating.
Satisfied?
what we read, yes.
So now we are all perfectly situated, for at least right now, and we can chant with deep affection for Krishna.
Bye, everyone. Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you.
Thank you for your
Panchakalpa
association.
Tarunjasya Kripasanivevajam Titanam Pavanevyo Vaishnavyo. Thank you all so much.
Have a good week.
Hare
Hare Krishna.
Gaur Premanande. Hari Hari Bol.